And here I am back with another mini video. This is James, and this one is the top 5 superhero films. Another one that I tried my best to find 10 superhero films that I would consider hidden gems, or that were just not as well known. And I could only find about 4 or 5, and I rounded it off with one that's relatively more well known than the other 4. And so, just 5. Anyway, so we will start off with number 5, and it's a film from 2017 called Valentine. Now, this is a Indonesian martial arts superhero film, and they use the same martial arts, I think it's Silat, that they do in the Raid 2, all those films. And this is sort of it's sort of a guy recruits a girl under the guise of making a movie and ends up turning her into a crime fighter. Not so much a superhero, but a crime fighter. But a lot of crime fighters would be in superhero films. Mass vigilante, that kind of thing. And she gets this whole costume and stuff. And I kind of wish it had a higher rating because it was only about a PG, just because you get more oomph out of like the Raid and the Raid 2 kind of violence. Not that I'm encouraging violence, but it just makes it an entertaining action film. But I understand it, superhero film, crime fighter film, and it was good. I love the fight scenes. I just wish they had been able to take it to another level. So that was number 5. Number 4, we have another film from 2017. This is a Russian superhero film called Guardians, and it doesn't really have anybody you'd recognize, it being a Russian film. But you've got a guy who can control rocks, a guy who can turn into a bear, like a werebear kind of thing. Excuse me. Let me see. It's been a while since I've watched it, but you basically got not wholly original, unique superhuman abilities, but I hadn't seen one where a guy turns into a bear. And you see one where guys control like the earth and stuff like that, but this guy can control rocks and build them around himself to give him armor and stuff. So, and you've got a few other members on the team. And so if you don't mind subtitles, it's in Russian, like I said. But I thought it was a good and different take on the superhero genre, and I was impressed by the visual effects. So I wouldn't believe the hype that's out there about this being one of the worst films ever made. It's not bad. I quite enjoyed it. So not that I've seen that many Russian films, but I thought the effects were really good. Anyway, so that was number 4. Number 3, we have a film from 2005, another Canadian film called Sidekick. And this, again, doesn't really have any actors you'd recognize, except for Daniel Baldwin, really. But you basically got a guy in an office who's pretty much low on the totem pole, and he discovers that one of the guys in the office that he admires, the guy who's higher up than him, he discovers that he has superpowers. I think he has like telekinesis. And he lets him know that he knows, and that he wants to be sort of in his corner. He wants to be his sidekick, and he can help train him and teach him and stuff like that. The problem is the guy he's admiring and he wants to be a sidekick to isn't exactly a good guy. So he's not necessarily going to use his powers for the forces of good. And you've got that whole, can he turn him into this great guy, or has he created a monster? that's the kind of thing you're dealing with. So that's number 3. That's Sidekick. All right, number two, we have a film from 2021, just from last year. This one just barely missed all 3 of my top 10 Google Play films. All 3 of them, yeah. Just barely missed being on any one of those lists. And this is called These Streets We Haunt. And so like a guy, he's an artist, and he ends up renting out a spare room in his house because he needs the money to this young girl. And this young girl ends up, he begins to suspect that she is, has powers, or like a superhero or whatever, just because of these comics that he has and he's reading. He suspects she may either be a superhero or a super villain, just because there's parallels between how she's living her life and what he's reading in these comics. And it turns out she is involved in this whole other world that is going on right under his nose. And they develop a relationship, they become friends, but she also has this past that is going to bleed over into his life if they're not careful. So that is number 2, These Streets We Haunt. Also has a great soundtrack. For an indie film, it has a great soundtrack. All right, number 1. This would be the one that's the most well-known one, but maybe not by everyone. It is from 1997, filmed by Trey Parker, his second film, and it's called Orgasmo. And this one is basically a guy who's a Joseph, who's a Mormon, who gets involved in the porn industry, and he gets involved, and he hooks up with a friend of his, Dian Bahar, who played Squeak in basketball, and he is a genius inventor, and he invents this laser beam that you shoot a person with it, gives them an orgasm. And they get costumes, and they go out and fight crime by giving people orgasms to stop them from doing bad things or turning an angry person into a happy person. It's essentially what it is. It's like it's a parody on the porn industry and superhero movies kind of thing. But it's hilarious. I remember I had the VHS and I waited a long time for the DVD to come out because they just packed it full of extras, documentaries, a whole bunch of commentaries with a whole bunch of people on them. It's insane. Plus a drunk commentary, which was a highlight of Cannibal the Musical when they did that one. Anyway, so that was the end of that mini video list, and I'll see how many more I have left in me, because I'm making up for lost time. I went a few months without making a video, and then I made one. And then I've gone almost 2 months without making the last one. So I am making up for lost time, and I hope you enjoy all of these. All right, toodles.